All right, after much sorting out, we've figured it out. The 49ers 2024 NFL draft order is fully set. Mike was good enough to do some digging. The NFL made this as confusing as possible, but the 49ers officially have 11 picks in this upcoming 2024 draft after they were awarded 5 compensatory picks today. So let's start with that, then we'll go through the list of draft picks. But the 5 comp picks awarded to the 49ers, that's the highest in the league for the second straight season. Last year, they maxed it out at 7 compensatory picks. This year, 5. They actually maxed out the player half of the formula this year, but not the coaching or executive half of the formula that's required. If that's the minority hiring incentive, that's when a coach or a GM is hired elsewhere, and then you get those third-round picks in return. The 49ers this year, the player half of the formula was very, very productive for them. So I actually wrote about this last year. The same article now applies. The 49ers, we can scroll down here to see their comp pick production year over year. One comp pick over 2 seasons. But as you can see here, over the past 2 years, 2023 and 24, 12 compensatory picks. That's a fully stocked draft of extra picks that the 49ers have added into the mix. The Rams also had 5 this year. The way that you obtain comp picks on the player side is you decide not to re-sign somebody, they re-sign elsewhere, and then it's a complex formula of playing time and salary, and then it's you subtract whoever you signed and how much they played, and then the balance ends up being what determines which compensatory picks you are able to obtain. So, for example, and this is why Jimmy Garoppolo is on the thumbnail, 49ers expect it to pick up an extra third-round draft pick since Jimmy Garoppolo signed with the Raiders, but because he didn't start all season for them, that draft pick turned into a fourth-round draft pick, number 132. The formula is too complicated to get into the nitty-gritty here, but I can tell you that the number 132 draft pick, the fourth rounder that the 49ers picked up, that's because of Jimmy Garoppolo's departure in free agency to the Las Vegas Raiders. So the full list of 49ers draft picks for the 2024 NFL draft. They've got their own pick at number 31. It's their first time back in the first round since 2021. They've got their own pick in the second round at number 63. They've got their own pick in the third round at number 94. Then the 49ers have an extra fourth round pick at number 123. That has come from the Cowboys because of the Trey Lance trade. So the 49ers, that was a coup, especially now in retrospect. Lance didn't play for Dallas in 2023, but the 49ers pick up a relatively high fourth round pick. It's not in the compensatory section of the fourth round. It is in the actual section of the fourth round. Then is the 49ers' own fourth round pick, number 130. And then pick number 132, that's the compensatory pick for Jimmy Garoppolo's departure. So for Lance's departure, they pick in the fourth round. And for Jimmy Garoppolo's departure, they pick in the fourth round. Those 2 picks sandwich their original fourth round pick, number 130. Then the 49ers have round 5, number 175. That's another player departure compensatory pick. I think Sansom Ebukam, he's the one that factored into the formula for this one to happen. Round 6, number 211 is one of their comp picks. I think that was Azeez Al-Shire. And then there's round 6, number 215, another comp pick. I'm not exactly sure which player that was for. I could check it in a little bit. But basically, it's a complicated formula. So the nitty-gritty doesn't matter all too much. It's the overall effect of departures and gains. And the 49ers have 5 comp picks because they played on the right side of that formula. Round 7, the 49ers have picked up an extra 7th rounder. That's because of the pick swap with the Denver Broncos for Randy Gregory. So round 7, number 239, and then round 7, number 251. That's the 49ers' actual 7th round pick. They don't have number 262 this year. That's too bad. That's a Brock Purdy reference. But number, what is it? I had it here. Number 251. That could be the 49ers' own personal version of Mr. Irrelevant in this season. Anytime I talk about comp picks and draft order, all this and all that, I have to share the best story of all time when it comes to this kind of stuff. And it goes back to the 49ers drafting CJ Beathard in the third round of the 2017 draft. In 2020 free agency, they decided not to re-sign CJ Beathard after his rookie contract was up. So Beathard walked. He signed with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Because of the compensatory formula that I have just outlined here, the 49ers picked up in the 2022 NFL draft because of Beathard's departure. Because of that departure, the 49ers picked up the number 262 overall pick, a compensatory pick at the very end of the 2022 draft. With that pick that was obtained through the departure of CJ Beathard, the 49ers selected Mr. Irrelevant himself, Brock Purdy. So we can say that CJ Beathard walked so that Brock Purdy could run. It's a beautiful story when we talk about comp picks. So the 49ers 2024 order is fully set. We don't know who's going to be this year's great story, but I'm sure that the 49ers have maximized their chances to have great stories because they've got 11 picks in this draft. Other news today, it's the Friday before the new league year, and typically you see players re-sign with teams, not the A-list guys. You see some of the smaller re-signings. Colton McKivitz, the 49ers right tackle, has re-signed for $7 million. Now, he already was part of the roster under contract for 2024. He signed for 2025 for $7 million, with about $4.55 million guaranteed, according to his agency. So this is an extension. It's a way of saying thank you to Colton McKivitz because the 49ers started him at right tackle and he's been playing on a below market rate deal. I still think it's a relatively below market rate deal, but it's a thank you in that direction. But it also helps the 49ers because his cap hit of $3.6 million this season can theoretically go down with the extension because you've bought yourself more time on the deal to spread money out. In no way does re-signing Colton McKivitz mean that you can't look to upgrade through the draft at right tackle. In no way does it mean that you can't think about moving him inside the right guard. I mean, it doesn't preclude anything. These things are off-season picks that you're constructing if you're the 49ers, right? Every single team. You're building a living, breathing roster that has to have depth. This is one of the most violent sports that there is. And you have to find a way to make sure that every single position is not only fortified with star power, but also fortified with depth. We know that the 49ers need to get better at right tackle. Colton McKivitz was a very cost-efficient proposition for them relative to Mike McGlinchey this past season. They let McGlinchey walk for $87.5 million total, $17.5 million per year. McKivitz at about $2 million a year was just as good as Mike McGlinchey. But the 49ers, I think, do feel they need to get even better, especially on the right side of the offensive line. McKivitz and McGlinchey both had the same pass block efficiency grade at right tackle, but they ranked second to last in pass block efficiency. Now, I thought McKivitz did a lot of good stuff in the run game. Against Dallas, I mean, they had one goal line touchdown against Dallas where he had a nice drive block that I thought made it possible for the 49ers to pound through there at the goal line. I think he did a lot of that over the course of this season. Nobody's pretending that Colton McKivitz has been an awesome pass protector. But is he one of your best 7 or 8 offensive linemen on any NFL team? Absolutely, yes. And every NFL team needs at least 7 if they have clear designs of winning a Super Bowl. You need at least 7 serviceable linemen. In short, $4.5 million guaranteed on top of a deal that the 49ers already have with Colton McKivitz with a $3.6 million cap hit. In short, that is swing tackle money at best. In a pinch, of course, they can start Colton McKivitz. They did last year, and they came within a fumble of winning the Super Bowl. But in an ideal world, they would like to upgrade the position, and they may have an opportunity to do so through the NFL draft. They may have an opportunity to do so through free agency. They may have an opportunity to improve right guard through free agency or maybe even the draft, and that can help right tackle. But it's not just a one-player proposition. We're not just looking at Colton McKivitz and saying this is going to determine whether or not the 49ers offensive line is good or not. The overall investment in the unit is what is most important. And some of that investment happened today. It's going to happen at several different price points, probably valuable draft picks, maybe a bigger signing at guard or right tackle, hell, maybe even center. Remember, Aaron Banks is only under contract for one more year at left guard. And also at the lower price points to make sure you've got your group of 7 or 8 really solid offensive linemen, serviceable offensive linemen to weather the marathon of an NFL season. So all of this stuff is important for the 49ers. The McKivitz signing was just one piece of that larger mosaic. And if you've got a floor established at every position in free agency, then you could turn to the draft and you could start taking bigger swings. And I think that's a really good idea. It's a good, efficient use of your 90-man roster. Anyway, back to the start. 49ers awarded those 5 compensatory picks. You can take a look at the 5 compensatory picks. They're awarded right here. They're all in the... and one of them, by the way, the reason you're only seeing 4 right here is because one of those comp picks is sent to Washington in return for Chase Young. That was the agreed upon compensation for Chase Young, was the 3rd round compensatory pick. So that came via D'Amico Ryans and Rand Carthon taking promotions elsewhere. But the 4 comp picks the 49ers currently have and will continue to have, unless they trade them away, are a 4th rounder, a 5th rounder, and 2 6th rounders, 132, 175, 211, and 215. A little bit lower than people had thought on this 4th rounder, by the way. Over the cap had projected 3rd round comp pick for Jimmy Garoppolo's departure. Instead, it is a 4th round comp pick for Jimmy Garoppolo's departure. Probably because he got benched in that season and he didn't start the whole time. So I think that might have hurt the compensatory formula as it had to do with Jimmy Garoppolo. If you want to read more about how the 49ers do all this comp pick stuff, you can go ahead and check it out. That's the big piece. I'm obviously on vacation right now, so go knock yourself out. Search that Mike might put the link in the description, but go ahead and search that in Google. I don't think it's that hard. How 49ers GM John Lynch uses the comp pick formula to reload for the NFL draft. There isn't another team in the NFL right now doing this as effectively as the 49ers. I mean, last year they traded all their picks away for Christian McCaffrey, yet they still had didn't they have 10, 11, or 12 in the draft? And it was because they had 7 comp picks. So they know when to let players walk. They know when they could factor this into the formula. So if you're on the fence about extending a guy, but you realize if somebody else signs him, then you can get a comp pick. That's a much more sustainable way to build your roster because you're going to stay younger. You're going to stay cheaper. You don't overpay in free agency. And obviously the draft is cost controlled. New England under Bill Belichick did this really well for years. Baltimore under Ozzie Newsome has done this really well, still does this really well. But perhaps no team does it better now than the 49ers. Again, 12 compensatory picks over the past 2 seasons, an entire draft's worth of picks. When you've got such a top-heavy roster like the 49ers have now, when you've got so many star players earning a lot of money and more in line for money, such as Brandon Ayuk, you better knock it out of the park at the cost-controlled margins with the draft. And the only way you could do that is if you actually have draft picks. And if you trade away draft picks for star players like Christian McCaffrey, well, that's a great trade. It's paid off, but you got to replenish the draft picks. And the 49ers have done that through this compensatory formula. So anyway, their pick list is set. Hope that explains how they operate. You can go ahead and read this article. Subscribe to The Athletic for a little bit more. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks for watching.